Hello everyone. Frederick Douglass had truly quoted that the things worse than the rebellion are the things that causes rebellion. Today we are going to learn certain facts about the furious incident from the Indian history, and that is the Great Uprising of 1857. At the end of the session, you will be able to identify the causes. You will be able to know the leaders of the Great Uprising, and you will be able to enlist the results of the Great Uprising of 1857. So to start with, we'll have the causes of the Great Uprising of 1857 first. Why did people from different socio-economic backgrounds come together to fight against then rulers? The first cause, discontent among the ruling families. British policies of territorial annexations, such as subsidiary lands and the doctrine of lapse, angered many Indian rulers and chiefs as they lost their powers and honors. Because of the over-interference of British in their political affairs, the freedom of the Indian rulers was curbed. They denied many claims of the adopted sons of Indian rulers as the heir of the kingdom, like in case of Jhansi. The pension to ex-Peshwa Bajirao II's adopted son Nana Sahib was also denied. The Nawab of Awadh was also dethroned out of these policies. Thus, gradually, all the powers of kings and nawabs were taken over by the company, which led them to oppose British. The next cause, resentment among peasants and artisans. The policy of economic exploitation, forcefully commercialization of the agriculture, and the high import duties on the Indian goods, these two policies economically harass these two sections of the Indian society. The economic status of peasants and artisans degraded as a result of these economic harassments, and thus they were against the company rule. The next reason, Indian responses to the social and religious reforms. The advent of Christian missionaries in India was supported by the company rule. Acts related to socio-religious reforms like widow remarriage and abolition of sati also make them feel that they are interfering in the religious matters. They were feared of getting destroyed religiously. They feared that their existence could get endangered because of this. Hence, they stood against the company rule. Discontent among Sepoys was the fourth reason. Sepoys were having unsatisfactory service conditions. They were getting low salaries and allowances than the British counterparts. They were not offered promotions, and they were having compulsions to disobey the religious beliefs, such as crossing the seas was religiously prohibited in Indian societies. But British Army make Indian sepoys to do so forcibly. Hence, the religious sentiments of these boys was getting hurt, and sepoys was also not happy with the British rule or the company rule. Hence, they also stood against these people. Lastly, the immediate cause. Replacement of old-fashioned musket by the new Enfield rifle, which was having the cartridges which was covered with the greased paper made up of beef and pig fat. This cartridges were supposed to bite off before using, and this led to tremendous uh, regret among the Indian Sepoys of the British armies, since it was the cows were considered sacred in the Hindu religion, and pig was prohibited rigorously in the Islam, and hence both the communities refused to use these cartridges. This incident lit the fire in the uprising and was hence treated as the immediate cause for the uprising. The next thing, after analyzing the causes, we should be identify now who led all these uprisings at the various centers. The different socio-economic groups from the Indian society need to gather under one roof. So, being successor of so far longest ruling empire of India, all the angered and enraged kings and nawabs acknowledged Bahadur Shah Zafar as the leader of the Great Uprising of 1857. Since he was above 80 years old, was not able to physically participate in the uprising, still everyone was believing that he could be a better option to replace the company rule. Uprising broke out at Barakpur. Because of the enriched sepoy who denied to use the beef and pig fat greased cartridges of Enfield rifle, Mangal Pandey, a sepoy, fired at Lieutenant Bug and broke out the uprising. The uprising spread like a wildfire then after. Similar incident happened at Meerut. Sepoys of the cavalry regiment who were court-martialed due to the refusal of using Enfield rifles, rebelled against their officers and rode to Delhi and requested Bahadur Shah Zafar to take charge of the campaign. After that, the reflection of this campaign were observed at various stations under varied leaders such as Kanpur. It was led by Nana Sahib, Tatya Tope and Azimullah. At Lucknow, the uprising was led by Begum Hazrat Mahal. Jhansi was led by Rani Lakshmi Bai. At Ara, Kanwar Singh and Amar Singh were the leaders, and Bareilly was led by Bakht Khan. As we can see in the map, the whole Gangetic plain was influenced and was under the impact of this great uprising. The stations has been shown with the triangulations in the map where this rebel was activated. Company rule started taking quick actions against these rebels, and they started with the leader Bahadur Shah Zafar. Bahadur Shah Zafar was arrested and his two sons were killed, and Sir John Nicholson restored the Delhi fort. Rani Lakshmi Bai died on the battlefield while fighting against Sir Hugh Rose. She fought bravely but could not save Jhansi. Sir Colin Campbell succeeded in taking Lucknow. Tatya Tope keeps struggling with Britishers through guerrilla war tactics. Nana Sahib and Begum Hazrat Mahal escaped to Nepal. Bakht Khan, Kanwar Singh, and others could not survive for long in the battle with British Army. This is how company succeeded in suppressing the uprising. If we cross-check what went wrong, then we could conclude that the causes of failure could be enlisted as limited scope of uprising. The uprising was localized. There were many parts of India which were not affected by the uprising at all. It was confined to certain areas such as Bihar, modern Uttar Pradesh, and most of the states from the Gangetic Plain, as we have observed in the map. Weak leadership again was one of the major reasons for the failure. Bahadur Shah was too weak and an old person to lead the uprising. All the leaders fought to defend their own territories and neither coordinated nor planned with one another as a unit. No national leader emerged to give purpose and direction to the uprising. Unorganized effort and lack of planning again became one of the reasons for the failure. Rebels failed on account of unorganized efforts and lack of planning. They were brave and selfless, but they were ill disciplined and unorganized. The rebels worked without any common plan and did not have a definite aim acceptable to all. They lacked an ideology or program, which results in the failure of the uprising. Of course, the company rules, superior military resources were one of the major cause which led to this failure again. The educated Indians did not support the uprising. Their lack of interest was a serious drawback. Their view was that the rebels stood for the old order along with their superstitions and were opposing the progressive social measures. And hence, this lack of interest by the middle class, upper class, and the intellectuals became one of the reasons for the failure of the Great Uprising. After analyzing its failure, we should now move towards what happened after the uprising. The results of the Great Uprising of 1857 could be enlisted as: the British introduced major changes in the policies and administrative setups in India. The Act of August 1858 transferred the administration of India from the East India Company to British Crown. A British cabinet was appointed and made responsible for the governance of India. Lord Canning was Governor General during the time of uprising, was continued after it, but with the title Viceroy. The Queen's Proclamation was announced and issued on November 1st, 1858. British policy of territorial annexation was discontinued. Besides, they agreed not to interfere in the religious matters and reorganize the Indian army. Uprising was an utter failure. Considering the rigorous rebellious attitude of varied sections of society, company rule was replaced to the British Crown. It was a remarkable change in the history of India's freedom struggle. I hope you have understood the causes, leaders, and results of the Great Uprising of the 1857. This will be all for today's session. Thank you.